Welcome to the Mav Money podcast here. Dean Allen joined with Justin Shaw and Daniel Severin. And boys, glad to get this pod finally up and running to talk a little Mesa athletics.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and it's finally came to fruition, and I can't be more excited to be here.
Yeah, Justin pretty much said it all. Very, very excited to be here. So,
just a quick little preview for you guys as to who we are. I'm Dean. I'm the co-sports editor for the Criterion. Justin also, and then Daniel is our senior podcast assistant.
Woo!
So, yeah, let's get right into this here, and we'll start with men's basketball. And, Justin, you just got done writing an article that's out now on the Mesa men's basketball team, and it's been kind of a shaky season for them to this point.
It really has. I mean, given the first half of January, they had a really strong start. They kind of picked it back up. They've found their footing as a younger team in the division, but I mean, they were looking really good there for the first part of the season. I believe they were on a 7-game win streak, and the team was led to new heights, and particularly due to their closing play. I feel like that was a strong suit. I mean, you can attest to it, but some of the games would genuinely give you a heart attack while watching them just because of how close it would go. There were two back-to-back 64-63 wins. There was another 2-point win.
In overtime, no less.
In overtime, yeah. So
and they came back. Can you open that box score for us, Daniel, and tell us what the score was at the end of the first half in that game against Black Hills State?
Let me see really quick. You said Black Hills State?
Yep, just go to the schedule, then box score. He's still running the website, folks.
Oh, I am. Yeah.
We're going to give him some time here.
On it.
So now if there should be a point where it has the by halves numbers. So what's the first half score?
So the first half, what we are looking at is 36-43.
Yeah, so they were trailing by 7 points going into the half, which was, it was kind of shaky. They were riding on a win streak, but it was really hard to say that the Mavericks were going to be able to pull that off. But given this team's performance in late game scenarios, you just can't count them out. You really can't.
Well, especially during that second half, too, there was a point they were down by 15. Yeah. I remember Ty Allred, who's quickly becoming star A on this team, having a really good night. How many points did he have that game?
Let's see. 22.
Yeah, a 22-point performance, and he's averaging close to 20, if I remember correctly.
That is a great performance out of him, actually.
Yeah, honestly, he has stepped up his play this season, and it's making a difference to this team. I think him taking charge on the scoring end of things is really helping this team find their identity when it comes to swinging the rock and everyone playing to their position. I think it's a strong suit of his, and I think it's helping everyone else get into their own rhythm that has obviously been seen with the past 7 or 8 games in the season.
When also talking to you about that rhythm defensively, they've been a great second-half defensive team and had the chance to run it Ty Allred outside Bronson Arena just a couple days ago, and he said they wear heart rate monitors during practice, and they're consistently at 98% capacity. And because I even asked him, did Dunlap just run you guys in the offseason until you puked? And he said, our conditioning is practicing, is scrimmaging. We do everything. It's not a long practice. It's just a high intensity. You walk in, you get work done, you go home, you recover. You get, hit the showers, so to speak. And I think, too, we've seen that as the games get late. I mean, the last 10 minutes, opponent shooting percentage just goes in the dumpster. It's like they've just been ran off the court.
It's insane, and I feel like that's what differentiates them from all these other teams. I mean, given the first half performances, that, like I say, you can't count them out because of their durability in these games and their consistency to be durable in the fourth quarter and to step it up. And it may not even be that they're stepping it up. It may be that they're outlasting these other teams, going into overtime and overcoming these deficits. Just that intensity that they're able to consistently push all game is really helping them win these games late.
Well, then also, too, you want to talk about even the close loss they had against Chadron State. That was rough, but again, they were down by a big margin and brought it within 2 before they lost that game. And even Ty Allred's buzzer beater didn't look horrible.
No, not
like
at
it
all.
was a full court lunge of a shot, but I have seen full court shots look way worse than that one.
Yeah, honestly.
Like that one, until it hit the 3-point line, you could say it had a chance.
The Mavs, dare I say, lost in style that game.
Yes.
Because with a minute and a half left, I believe it was a minute 45, the Mavs were down by 9 points. And even as I was watching the game myself, I said, you cannot count this team out. And sure enough, it came down to fast break buckets, defensive stops, some steals, a 3-point play at the end of the game that helped push the lead back within 2. And it was honestly crazy to see. But yeah, it kind of fell apart there at the end. Some miscommunication on the offensive end. They were unable to convert, but it was still a stylish loss nonetheless.
When it's a team that will pass you and cut you to death.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of their possessions, they're passing the ball 8, 9, 10 times. Like, they are not slowing up when it comes to passing. And I think that's a big reason they've been able to outlast these opponents late.
That ball movement is such a key aspect when it comes to offenses, especially in a Division II setting where these teams are in set zone defenses or man, and that passing is automatically going to mix it up pretty quickly. And I think coach's system is pretty consistent with that, and I think that's why they outlast these teams, because there's never another play that's going to be ran again where the defense is going to be able to read and be like, okay, I know what's happening. No, it's going to take a great attention to detail to come up with that. But, you know, at this level, it's a really good offensive system that they have in place with that passing.
Well, let's get to talk, too. We got the tale of two seasons going on between men's and women's basketball. I mean, Daniel, you got the schedule pulled up for women's hoops. And
yes, I do.
what was that Shadron victory final?
79-49.
That was, I remember texting with Justin about it and saying there are professors at CMU who could have scored a basket that night. And I think a lot of it, too, just comes from Olivia Reed-Thine. Is it wrong to call her a generational talent in D2 basketball?
No, I believe that she is the Nikola Jokic of D2 basketball, to further back one of your previous talking points that we've had. But the way she spaces the floor with her gravity in the paint is honestly insane. The way that she can draw defenses in, and it also opens up the shooters. I mean, if you'll look at that game, there were 2 other people in double digits. You had Brooklyn Palmer with 14, and you had, who else was that with 10?
Michaela Moore.
Michaela Moore had 10, and I believe when it came to 3-pointers, yeah, they both, Brooklyn hit 2 of 2. So just opening up that floor, that, like I said, that gravity that she pulls with her to the paint is honestly great. And even when she does go in the paint and they might double team her, she just overpowers them and outmaneuvers them so gracefully that she is going to get that basket, or she is going to get that and one.
Well, it's insane, too, because Palmer is not a shooter. I mean, she's a great post player. She is not a shooter. She was just so wide open. I think anyone could have made that shot. And I mean, also, look at her shooting percentages, too, Danny. What was their shooting percentage that game?
Oh, man, let's see.
Even season shooting percentage will work, but
Season shooting percentage.
however you want to slice it, they're shooting the ball well, is the long story short.
Oh, yeah, 593. So,
Yeah, that's not a bad. That's a pretty darn
not
good.
bad at all.
I mean, if you got 3/5 of your shots going in, you're going to win a lot of games.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, also, too, I think a lot of it is head coach Taylor Wagner has been coaching this squad for so long, and he is one of the most intense coaches in the RMAC, and it's not even close as far as intensity goes. I mean, sometimes I'll be sitting at the press balcony in Bronson, and I can hear him talking like I'm sitting right next to him. I mean, it is wild. And he'll be yelling at his own players, too. They'll be up by 30 like that, and he's like Nick Saban in the national championship. We all know that meme where they're up by like 40 over Notre Dame in the championship, and he's just flipping a gasket. I mean, it's insane to think about of how intense he is and how intense that makes us players. Because I remember talking to players too, and he's not even like that in practice. They say he's not like that in warmups. It's like the ball is tipped and a switch flips, and that is wild to me.
That respect that you can garner from your players when you show that you can be intense at certain times when it's needed, but still have the respect for your players when it comes to practice and times like that. I think that's a huge differentiator when it comes to how they perform in the games. I think that really does help. That intensity that they come in with separates them from the competition from off the bat. They'll go on 9-0 runs to start the game and never look back. They'll have wire-to-wire wins. And it's honestly amazing seeing how they play in such a consistent pace. I know they've lost a few games this season, but they're currently on a 6-game win streak at the time of this podcast, and it's insane seeing their consistency and aggression to kind of compared to the men's team too. They're both hitting their stride right now.
Both teams in action Thursday and Saturday slate this week, traveling down to start play at CSU Pueblo. Women's will tip off at 5:30, men's at 7:30 down in Mashari Arena. Then at the Galagali Event Center in Colorado Springs, taking on UCCS on Saturday. We'll have coverage, recaps, interviews from both of those games in the CMU Criterion edition that's coming out in 2 weeks. The games we discussed are currently out in the paper now. We'll now transition into women's wrestling, and our women's wrestling squad having a good season. They've clinched second place in the RMAC before they head down to Colorado College to do battle in the RMAC championship this weekend. And Justin, talking with you a bit, it's the growth of the sport has just been wild for this team. I mean, going from a room of, maybe 12 girls to now they're up, near the high 20s, low 30s, if memory serves correctly. I mean, the growth of it's wild, and also how dominant they are.
Honestly, I feel like that depth has a lot to do with it. When you add so many talented wrestlers to a team and you have this depth of talent that can accumulate and add points, it honestly changes the game for you. And looking at it from a broader perspective, I think that has really shaped the way that they have performed this season. And I think it's a telling sign of what's to come for the program, too.
Their only RMAC loss in the last 2 years has been losses to Simon Fraser in both seasons. And actually, I had a chance to sit down with head coach Travis Mercado about it, and he said they're not really looking for their get back in the RMAC tournament.
Now, Coach, with the regular season happening, that very close loss to Simon Fraser, how much do you guys talk about trying to get your get back, if you will, at those guys come the postseason?
Not to sound like, cocky or arrogant, but we lost to Simon Fraser in a duel last year, and we finished 5th in the country with 6 All-Americans. They finished in the top 10 and 1 All-American. That's our get back. We lost a duel meet in a last-second throw attempt by the girl from Simon Fraser and pinned Bo, who's pretty difficult to throw and pin. And then last year we lost, I think, by 2 points in a close, tight race duel. My get back isn't, all right, we're going to show them. We're just going to go out and perform. Like, they won a duel. There's no reason to give anything back, honestly. Like, when you start thinking about that, you have that added weight of like, well, we got to do this. And really, we don't have to do anything. We get to go and compete, and we get to go and wrestle. And if everybody performs at the level that I expect them to and know that they can, we'll come out on top. And if we don't, that's all right. I'm really competitive, and I know that sometimes gets lost when I'm like, we lost. Like, oh, that's what it is. We lost. We didn't perform poorly. It was really one match. Bo doesn't get pinned, we win. And that's not Isabeau's fault. We had 9 other girls wrestle, and 9 other girls contributed to that team score. So really the focus is, like Anaya said, like, what are my best skill sets? How am I going to manage this emotion of the match, right? It's Sophia's looking at, right, and this is an opportunity to, go to the RMAC for the first time and celebrate that and enjoy that. And both of them are going to use this as a learning opportunity to prep for the regional championship, weighing in 2 hours, ready to go, right? Away, not at home, sleeping in a hotel, right? The great thing about the regional championship is we went to Texas Women's earlier this year. We're going to stay in the same hotel. We're going to get the same minivans. We're going to do all the same exact things, so it's not any really different. So really, this is just a way for us to be prepared for regionals and nationals. And, like I said, my get back is we're going to have more All-Americans and place higher at the national tournament. And that's what I'm looking forward to, is having a great regional championship and a great national tournament, not necessarily getting Simon Fraser back this weekend.
That was head coach Travis Mercado at a media scrum early Tuesday afternoon. Now we'll also talk a bit about the men's wrestling side, and men's team having a really solid season themselves as well. They've yet to drop an RMAC contest before they head to CSU Pueblo on Friday and the Colorado School of Mines on Saturday. They have not yet clinched the regular season wrestling title, but they are well on their way to. And Daniel, I know you have the schedule pulled up, and they've had back-to-back pretty close wins here.
Yeah, so Chadron State was a win 21-19, and Adams State was a win 20-18.
Well, in that, I think it's important to talk that Chadron win too, right? Because they had to forfeit one of their better wrestlers, and Jason Bynarkowitz, dealing with some health issues, head coach Mike Mendoza specifically, being a little bit quiet about it, and I don't blame him one bit for that. You don't want your competition knowing what's going on with your best wrestler and tell him what weaknesses to point out. But Denham and Daysum Torgensen in that match, getting the bonus points in both tech fall and pin respectively. I mean, Denham and Daysum, you and I were looking at the stats, building the box score this weekend, and they've both had really dominant years.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of insane. Kind of going back to Jason's absence and being replaced. The fact that CMU was down and because the Grizzlies had won 4 of the first 5 bouts.
We've been talking about the Grizzlies. I'm just talking about Shatter and how dominant that was, but I like the fact you bring up the Grizzlies too, because they had to win about 5 straight to take that duel, and it was an important one. It was at home in Bronson Arena, one of their final home match, I believe their final home duel of the year, and to take that and win so close, they're kind of becoming the hoops team at this point. The men's and women's hoops team. I mean, 2-point win for the men's side, and then the women's side, they had that 38-8 win against Adams State. I mean, this is pretty much the same exact thing we're seeing in the basketball world.
They are the cardiac kids of the T2 world right now.
Yes, of the RMAC at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2 really solid seasons for both those guys. But for men's wrestling, they're, in an important time. And when's their RMAC championship, Daniel?
Let's take a look here.
And it might just be the regional. I could be misremembering here. Yeah, it is just the Super Region 6. It's not an RMAC.
Yes, that would be March 1st, which is a Saturday at 10 a.m.
Well, and that's in Gunnison at Mountaineer Fieldhouse, right?
Yes, it is.
And I think it's important, too, if you scroll back up a bit, you can see, their earlier duel with Western Colorado. They didn't just beat the 17th ranked team in the nation at that point. They thrashed them pretty good.
Yep, there it is, 31-12.
Well, and, I was talking with one of the wrestlers, and they got a pretty good rivalry heating up with Western. You talk geographical closeness. And, they're also both 2 solid squads. And Western actually going to be, I was wrong, there is one more men's wrestling match in Bronson because you have the battle in Bronson against the Western Colorado Mountaineers. And, Daniel, that one's shaping up to be at a pretty good time and a pretty good wrestling match there.
Yeah, I'm looking to see how that shapes up. That's honestly going to be a telling game when it comes to especially the RMAC championship, but further into the season too as we push on past that.
Well, also too, these are a lot of the same wrestlers you're going to be seeing at the Super Region 6 tournament. I mean, Mesa and Western are kind of the 2, A1s of the RMAC, if you will. They are both very good programs, both locally and nationally. And I think it's going to shape up to be a really close one. And you guys can read more about both the men's and women's wrestling team in this next edition of the Criterion. And also, didn't quite have time to talk about it today, but I also got a pretty solid article in there about Mesa Hockey, who most recent games, they won by a combined margin of 31-0. And actually, boys, I don't know if you know this, they beat Western so bad that Western canceled their games this weekend in Grand Junction.
Wow.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was a bit of a roughin'. So, I'm not going to, maybe there were other issues. I can't say affirmatively it was because of the final score, but I can make educated guesses and inferences and assume that's what's going on. But Daniel, Justin, any closing thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up?
I honestly believe that Mesa sports are in a great place right now. I'm really looking forward to see how the semester shapes out for all of these squads, and I can't wait to keep covering the sports. Yeah, it's a great time to be a Mav.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm excited just to see how the rest of, each of these sports seasons play out. We're looking really well. And yeah, I mean, I just hope for a strong finish.
For Daniel Severin and Justin Shaw, this is Dean Allen. You'll be hearing us next week on the newest podcast on the campus of Colorado Mesa University. This is the Mav Money Line.